I would like to begin my talk this evening with a poem by Poonam Shrivastava from India. I don't know who she is, but when I was at the bookstore at the retreat, on the back, both Thich Nhat Hanh and Deepak Chopra gave her 2 thumbs up, so hey. Why not? And indeed, I love her poetry. It's one of the best little books of poetry I've ever gotten. It's just so Zen-like and so precise. I love it. And all this while, I thought I was alone. Alone in my suffering. My exclusive arrangement with destiny of a soiled past and an uncertain future. Wiped clean by communion with a virulent present. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. I was only going to read that one, but I just saw another one I like. Some people wear this very attractive fragrance called vibes. And actually, those 2 poems embody 2 very important aspects of our practice. Many times we do feel alone. Alone and burdened with regrets of the past, worries about the future, right? And we don't realize that everyone else is worrying about the same things or regretting many similar things, but we feel alone. But through our practice of coming out of the delusive, imaginary, false make-believe of the past and the future, we can begin to wipe everything clean. Once again, this virulent present, that's what it does. It brings us back out of the regrets of the past and out of the worries about the future and back to the purity of the present moment. That's what we practice. I don't know why I'm remembering this story, but I'll go with it. A few years ago, I was at a Zen temple in San Francisco, and we did meditation, and we had a little message, I think, and then there was this part where we just did about 10 minutes of working meditation as just part of the service. So I was given the duty of sweeping. Clouds come, clouds go. So I began to sweep. And the wind would blow and more things would come, leaves would go onto the steps, and I would sweep again. And a few other leaves would come again, and I'd sweep that. And then I would just sweep, and then other sections would get things blown there again, and I just swept. Our practice is eternal because there's always more to do, always more to practice. Even as we get the sidewalk swept, tomorrow it'll need sweeping again, right? And even as we come back into the present moment, wiping our consciousness clean, free from past and future, and yet the next moment comes up, and the next, and the next. Every moment is a new moment to practice, to sweep. And it's okay. Because we're not sweeping for perfection. That's not the point. If I was sweeping to keep that temple porch perfectly clean for eternity, I'd be sweeping for a very long time. But I was only sweeping for that moment. That was just my duty in that moment. And I just swept knowing that that's just what I'm doing now. And it's okay that maybe tomorrow someone else will have to sweep it. I'm just doing my part today. And that's enough. And I'll have something else to do tomorrow. And that's enough. So that's our practice. And the second poem that I read also is part of our practice. The practice of vibes. You see, we're not just practicing just for ourselves and just so that we can feel peace today to some relative small degree. We also practice so that we can deepen in the practice so that it creates this field of energy, this light from our heart radiating strongly and evenly and beautifully, so that it keeps on going, moment by moment by moment. It creates vibes. So we're not just practicing for our own self, our own feeling, or just this momentary peaceful relief, but to create a beautiful force field, vibe of enlightenment within and around us that keeps growing strongly until all of us vibing together create the Pure Land on earth, the kingdom of heaven on earth. And not just for our generation, but for the next, and they for the next, and the next, and the next. But it can't, what we do doesn't have that kind of power without practice, you see? Your vibe is kind of a vibe. It needs to be a strong vibe. And to do that, it takes practice together. Cultivation and development of mindfulness. Well, many different insights came to me during my retreats. And, oh, by the way, to go from a weak vibe to strong vibe, you see, that was what I was talking about earlier. Kind of floated away as my brain got foggy just for a moment. And by the way, those who are watching on videotape, you know, I am having a little flu or cold or something, so bear with me. To go from weak to strong vibe. How do we do that? We practice, we cultivate, we develop our mindfulness. And we don't do it alone, we do it with each other. Because it's not just for this moment or this generation or this lifetime. We want to do this practice so that it lasts a long time and reverberates far and wide throughout space and time. But see, we're all like little raindrops. Beautiful little raindrops. Precious little raindrops. Cute little raindrops. And we evaporate so quickly. And as I was thinking about my mortality during these retreats, I realized that if I were to die, like this year or next, what would happen to this Dallas Meditation Center? It might close down. I don't know. What would you guys do? Where would you go? I don't know. And so I began to realize I need to create my vibe even stronger than it is, which means that I need to support you to become as strong as me in the practice, so that if I go away, someone else can easily take my place. And not only that, but if this center is connected to a bigger movement, then it has more vibes too. Which is why I've been encouraging you all to please go see our root teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. Be connected to the greater community. Then maybe you can keep the practice going here strongly and make sure that we're always connected to the greater community, the global community of mindful living, which we are part of. We're just one small branch in Dallas of a global system of communities. And they're beautiful communities. But if we're just independent by ourselves, we might last a few years, but it might fizzle too. For us to keep going on and on strongly, we need to stay connected to the greater mothership of Plum Village. And I want that. I want that. Then whatever we do here will last much longer. Even if this particular location doesn't exist anymore in a few decades, it's okay. The practice will be so strong and connected that we will have added our energy to the greater movement of the communities of mindful living, and we will go on through them. You see? If we do not connect our practice with that greater movement, whether it's with Thich Nhat Hanh or some other great spiritual movement, what we do as a spiritual community locally here is good but limited. Because all of us eventually will grow old, die, move, or whatever. But the force of our vibe can continue strongly and keep nurturing something that will be lasting centuries if we stay connected. So even if this particular expression of the community changes or gets absorbed into some other community, that's okay. What we do here, if it's still connected to the greater community, is that vibe is carried by that greater community century after century after century. So we still actually exist or inter-exist, even if this physical form doesn't. So if you add your little raindrop with each other here, and then with the greater community and with our teacher, and with other wonderful communities connecting all around the world, then it becomes raindrop by raindrop into a river that grows and grows and grows. Mighty river that cannot run dry. A mighty river that nourishes all beings. A mighty river that carries us all to the one ocean of infinite light. And so, to make our vibe stronger, by the way, I'm just using the word vibe, humorously, but really it's a true reality. Ancient ones in Buddhism called it Buddha field, Buddha Kshetra, a pure land. Every Buddha has a pure land. And since all of us are baby Buddhas, we all have our pure lands too. Now, a great Buddha like Amitabha, for example, might have the whole universe as the pure land, right? But maybe our pure land is just, maybe really small. Just, this is my little pure land. And collectively, of course, we created this pure land right here, this center. But we all have our pure lands. So the practice of Buddhism and of Pure Land Buddhism, and of all kinds of Buddhism, and of all true spiritualities, not just Buddhism, is the practice of creating the energy field, cultivating our vibe, making our vibe stronger and reaching out more and more. That's our practice. To strengthen our vibe and to let our vibe reach far and wide. To create the Pure Land here and now. See, my energy field, my Pure Land, is not just physically the land I'm on. It's also the energy field of how I relate to others, my relationships, my work relationships, my family relationships, my words, my thoughts, my actions create an energy field and reverberates, ripples across the world. Jesus called this the kingdom of heaven on earth. You see? To Jesus, the whole universe is God's kingdom. That's how enlightened he is. He can see that. To the Buddha, he sees the whole universe too as the Pure Land. But with our deluded minds, our immature minds, maybe we only see a little bit of the Pure Land. And so that's okay. We start with where we're at, and we allow our Pure Land to keep growing until we connect with others' Pure Lands, and we collectively realize the whole universe is the Pure Land. The whole universe is an energy field of light and love and life. The whole universe is the kingdom of heaven.